Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to break down a really big idea, a comprehensive new strategy for the future of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. It's called the BJ Attao Blueprint. So let's get into it.
Right off the bat, this whole strategy boils down to one simple but really powerful question. When you've got a problem, do you just keep patching the leak, or do you take the time to go in and fix the entire foundation? That choice, right there, is the heart of this entire plan. So let's look at what that means. On one side, you've got what they call the leaky roof approach. It's all about temporary fixes, constantly reacting to the next crisis, and kind of hoping someone from the outside will come and help. But on the other side, you've got the architect's blueprint. This is all about being proactive, making real structural changes so you can build long-term self-reliance. It's pretty clear which path this strategy wants to take.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll talk about that core idea of fixing the foundation. Then, we'll dive into a new economic engine, what security for the people actually looks like, how to create real savings for families, and finally, the technology they plan to use to build trust in the whole system.
So the biggest idea here is this fundamental shift in thinking. It's about moving away from just reacting to problems as they pop up, and instead actively reconstructing the systems that are causing those problems in the first place. Getting to the root of the challenges, not just patching up the symptoms over and over again.
So what's the first major piece of this reconstruction? Well, it's a brand new economic engine called the Blue Economy 2026. And its main goal is pretty ambitious, to move the CNMI away from an economy that is almost completely dependent on tourism.
This is where things get really interesting. The strategy basically says the CNMI's greatest asset isn't just its beaches, it's the massive marine territory surrounding the islands. So instead of just focusing on tourists, the plan is to capitalize on the ocean itself through things like sustainable fishing, developing marine energy, and even creating scientific research centers. It's a huge
And this quote just captures that strategic choice perfectly, right? Stop waiting around for visitors who only come during certain seasons and start building permanent, year-round industries that create real stability and prosperity for the long haul.
Okay, a new economy is a great idea, but what does it actually mean for people's security? Well, this next part focuses on exactly that, hitting two absolutely critical areas: pensions for retirees and good jobs for the local workforce.
Now, this number is so important, 25%. This represents the portion of retiree pensions that, right now, is uncertain. It's a huge source of anxiety. This strategy lays out a specific plan to guarantee that payment, taking that uncertainty off the table for good.
So how do they do it? Through something called the Locked Box Pension Fund. It's actually a pretty straightforward idea. First, the money gets legally isolated in its own dedicated trust fund, so nobody can touch it for anything else. Second, it's automatically funded by steady revenue sources, like public land leases. And the result? Well, you get guaranteed payments that are completely separate from the usual political budget fights.
And what about job security? The Marianas Jobs Now 2029 plan is designed to get the local workforce ready for a big change: the end of the CW1 visa program, which allows for temporary foreign workers. The whole idea is to build a self-reliant labor market by upskilling local residents, using things like AI-powered education to boost their digital and tourism skills.
Next up is a pillar that tackles one of the biggest financial pressures for just about every family: the crazy high cost of electricity. This is called the Energy Independence Initiative. And look, the plan sets a very specific, concrete goal here: a 30% reduction in electricity bills for every single resident and business. This isn't some vague promise. It's a hard number they're aiming for.
And this brings us right back to that core idea of fixing the foundation, doesn't it? Instead of giving out a temporary subsidy, a one-time check that feels good for a month but doesn't solve the real issue, this plan is all about structural independence. It aims to fix the problem permanently by giving people their own power through solar and battery storage systems.
I love this analogy because it captures the difference perfectly. A one-time check just pays one high bill, but a mini power plant in every home supported by subsidies and installment plans means lower bills forever. It's all about lasting savings, not just temporary relief.
So we have these huge plans for the economy, for pensions, for energy. But that leaves a really important question. How do you make sure any of this actually gets done? Well, the final pillar, the blueprint for trust, answers that question with technology.
The core of this is something called an AI policy transparency dashboard. Basically, it's a public website where anyone, and I mean anyone, can go online and see in real time exactly how government money is being spent. You can also track how well the government is keeping its policy promises. It's all about using tech to prove good governance and build back trust.
But it's actually more than just tracking. The strategy uses technology to get people directly involved. There's a high-speed website where you can do a deep dive into any policy, AI-powered explanations in different languages like Tagalog and Chamorro, and even a chatbot that can tell you roughly what your personal savings would be under the new energy plan.
So, to wrap it all up, this table really shows the fundamental shift we've been talking about. In every single key area, the economy, pensions, energy, and governance, this blueprint is designed to move the CNMI away from a reactive, uncertain way of doing things to a system that is proactive, guaranteed, and transparent.
And what's the ultimate goal of all these big structural changes? It's actually pretty simple. It's about moving the people of the CNMI from an unpredictable present, where you're never quite sure what's coming next, to a predictable future. A future where you can actually plan, build, and thrive.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Beyond all the policies and the tech, what could a truly predictable, stable future, one that's built on a really solid foundation, what could that actually mean for the next generation in the CNMI? It's a big question to think about.